Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Data Dojo with me, Swagata, your host. Today, I have a very special guest again. It's my second guest from Boomi, my employer. I'm very lucky to grab him and find this time with him. He is Matt McLarty. He's the CTO of Boomi. He has many decades of experiences. He's been in the API space and integration space. And I was lucky to be part of his podcast as well, which is on APIs, which we'll talk about in a bit. So welcome, Matt. Thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Swagata.
Yeah. So I briefly introduced you based on my understanding of what you've been up to, but anything you would like to share about your experience and anything that you want to highlight?
No, I think what I'm finding is all these things I have in my past are all coming together, right? You're probably finding the same thing as well. So I started my career in financial services and it got into integration pretty quickly. And then the web happened and, integration APIs became a thing. So, but here we are in 2024 and it's
Yeah.
all about AI.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I mean, it's been crazy. Like AI has existed for such a long time, but it's just coming into its real motion right now in the past couple of years since the launch of ChatGPT.
Yeah, I often will start my AI discussions with people who are in technology.
Yeah.
I think the idea of artificial intelligence was around in society before computers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
We invented computers after we had, in fact, maybe it was the incentive for inventing computing and so on, or it's guided a lot of the way, right? I mean, 2001: A Space Odyssey came out in 1969, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's out there, but yeah, I think I think that's a good reminder as well because when we're getting into, actually using AI, it can help demystify for people that, wait a minute, this
Yeah.
isn't new. Maybe the stuff that I learned before still has relevance, which is true. So yeah,
Yeah.
but it is a funny time because there's so much excitement, so much to do.
Right. Yeah, I remember like we were working on back in 2017, we were working on like using this knowledge bases, which is now popularly termed as the RAG approach. And I'm like,
Mhm.
all of this we've been familiar, we've not coined the term as RAG or something which sounds nice. But yeah, so you're right. Like we've had these technologies and everything for a while, and it's nice to see these nice.
Yeah. I don't know if RAG is a good acronym or not, but it's definitely memorable.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like you talked about your interest you've been in technology space for a while. So going back a bit from your early life, is there a particular, moment that inspired you for your, passion for technology and innovation, something that, sparked, yeah, this is what I want to do?
So I will just be transparent and give away my age. But when I
Yeah.
grew up as a kid in the dawn of the PC era. And then we had, there was IBM PCs and so on. In our household, we had a Texas Instruments TI-99 4A computer, which I think we plugged into a TV or something.
Yeah.
And it had like the ability to do basic programming. And I remember trying to create my own little choose your own adventure game. And um, I think it was, I remember programming like holiday music, Christmas carols with graphics, and you
Oh,
could do
wow.
multi-note stuff. And I'm a music lover too. So that's the one that sticks out as just kind of my affinity for computers. But I'm probably like a lot of people of my generation who got in the industry, which was trying to hack DOS and hack the PC to just come up with better games, better sound quality, things like that. And it just kind of sparked the curiosity there.
Yeah. Yeah. I see you're a Beatles fan too. So yeah, could have guessed
Yeah,
it.
there they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's interesting how many people are in music and in technology as well. So many people over the years, on the podcast when you were joined Mike Amundsen and I, Mike was a music major in university, not a computer science major. And so
Yeah.
many people play music of all sorts. So but that's because they're both creative endeavors, I think. In one respect, software is about engineering, but in another, it's about art and creativity.
Absolutely. I remember in my grad school, there was a music technology master's program, which was very
Wow.
fascinating to me. Yeah, because I didn't like see all that growing up in India. So it was nice to see some really nice school courses that I took. I took one of the course and went to their building, and it was like so much different from other engineering majors, very creative. They had like Disney characters and like robots. So
Wow. That's pretty cool.
yeah. So you talked about like, yeah, what triggered your passion for technology, but in the past couple of years, like as you've transitioned more to like a leadership role, can you
Mhm.
tell us more about your experiences with different companies, with Boomi, with CIBC before? So how leadership style changed over the period of years with different companies, and how did you transition from an IC to a leadership position?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think leadership management, like it is an interesting game in the technology space because leading technical teams,
Mm,
maybe there's a sports analogy there where you see a lot of coaches in sports that are former athletes and so on. Credibility is important, right?
yeah.
And so to be a leader in a technology field, you kind of need to have that experience. So I did start in a programming role, developing on tandem nonstop computers. It's like an old platform, now part of HP. Um, Worked my way up in the bank, but I think my pursuit of it's probably not surprising, right? Your career advancement generally will lead to leadership positions, so as you move up. But for me, I'd always I'd always been, you know, I like being a leader, and in university I was president of the house of my residence I lived at and so on. But I also love doing the work. Like I just like doing it. And to this day, I still always want to be involved in the work. So, but you do have to evolve for sure. You have to evolve you evolve in your life. Like for me in my life journey outside of work is, sort of first and foremost
Yeah.
was going through my own growth, starting a family and so on. Your mindset changes, and then within work, kind
Mm,
of you're focused on your stuff, and then you're looking broader. I think in general, like if I look at what led me into leadership roles, it's just that I like solving problems, but then sometimes you run into a problem that prevents you from solving the problem, which might be at a higher level. So then
right.
you want to kind of climb up and solve that problem. And then there's
Yeah.
another problem and another problem. And
Right.
ultimately, when you start to see your horizons expand, you start to see more, then you realize that when you solve those higher order problems, maybe it can just open the floodgates and for people to other people to do work, and the impact of your work can be greater. But of course, as
Yeah.
a person who's wired for technology,
Yeah.
there's nothing like just sinking your teeth into just some technical problem that you can just fix and see it work, and a feeling of satisfaction.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned like, having that credibility, and it's interesting, like, given the pace at which technology is moving, we ourselves, like people who are like more hands-on and not in a leadership role, are finding it hard to catch up with technology and learn so much. Being in your shoes, like, catching up with technology a little bit and also being the leader that you are, like, how do you balance it?
I think so first of all, I think imposter syndrome has always been a big deal. And I know that in like it can be more of a struggle generally for some people more than others. I think that's a surface thing. I think everybody has imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
And I think overcoming that is really important. Like, don't be afraid. Don't hold yourself back because you think you don't know something, or you're afraid that it might look like you don't know something, or whatever. Like, I know there's CEOs out there who will go in social media and brag about, hey, I'm coding, I'm a CEO, I'm still coding, I'm doing all this.
yeah,
And which is fine, but I don't think it's necessary, right? I think that um, credibility just comes down to trust and judgment. And I find that, especially to your point about how, the hyper cycle of change that's going on out there, and new technologies being introduced, nobody's going to know all of them. Nobody's going to be able to become a deep expert on all of them. So what you need to be a deep expert on is learning and adapting. And
yeah,
so I think that's where I guess my methodology would be just focus on the problem at hand, right? To have a very strong results orientation, learn what you need to learn, maybe
hmm,
even unlearn what you need to unlearn.
yeah,
And because I think a lot of the problems that we're faced with these days, you have to shift your thinking. Like I find myself daily now, with all the potential for AI technology that's out there, like saying, wait a minute, should I be doing this? Is this the right way to solve? Is there a new way to solve the problem? So I think that if you're somebody who can learn quickly and adapt quickly, sort of abandon the fear of, hey, maybe I don't know enough about this, then I think that that will help you. At the
Right.
same time, of course, you know, you don't want to be irresponsible about it, right? Like I'm not encouraging somebody to go and get behind the in the cockpit of a plane and say, hey, this can't be that
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Like, yeah, I think it's a very valid point. Like, the most important skill to have in this time is being adaptable and flexible, more than like, learning the hard skills.
Yeah, completely. And like having the right attitude, the right aptitude,
Yeah,
everything else will follow. And I think as well, credibility too can be about recognizing the expertise of others and
yeah,
leaning on people for that, right? Credibility isn't about always trying to be smartest person in the room, right?
mm,
Credibility is like when people are looking to you to make the right decisions, be decisive when people are, you know, but there's always somebody smarter. If you're a leader, there's always someone smarter than you, and being able to identify
yeah,
how you can put people in the right place to shine with their skills is the right approach, I think.
yeah. It's the best quality of a leader. Yeah. All right. So moving on to your current role, you're leading Boomi Innovation Group. So tell us more about what this group does and how are you using like AI in your business?
Yeah, I could talk for hours about the Boomi Innovation Group. I've been fortunate to having joined the company just over a year ago, working with an incredible team who are, you know, just blend a whole set of skills around, you know, really researching and understanding the latest developments in the field, applying them, um, building out assets that are not just experimental, but are actual, you know, usable assets for our customer base. So we really, our team is a hybrid of people in the field who are like executives in the product organization who go out and work directly with customers, bring feedback, you know, share insights, um, creating a direct channel between us and our customers and our partners and the industry, as well as our team of builders who are, you know, constantly looking into new technologies, reviewing the data about usage of the product and coming up with our, you know, if you go to discover.boomi.com is our catalog of assets, that's where you'll see all the work of the Boomi Innovation Group,
Mhm.
uh, which is, you know, so and in there it's a real blend. Like we are very customer driven, so you'll see lots of well-worn artifacts around doing things like EDI, trading dashboards, common connections between like NetSuite and Stripe and, you know, applications like that. But there's also a lot of really uh, groundbreaking assets around AI patterns and, you know,
Mhm.
how do you build a RAG pipeline with Boomi? How do you create vectorization using Boomi in conjunction with some vector database tooling? Like we have all these different assets. And actually this week are just started to build AI agents into the catalog, which is a big thing for Boomi. We are predicting a multi-agent future of software, and we're jumping in early.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I've been fortunate enough to, have some few collaborations with the Boomi Innovation Group, and I've seen how, the customer aspect, knowing the business domain really well and doing state-of-the-art research, everything just blends together so well. So kudos to you
I
for
think
leading such a great team.
yeah, kudos to the team. Like I was like, you know, a lot of the team was a team before I got here, and they built an incredible culture. And I think it's, you know, it's a or it's a cliche to talk about the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. But what's really cool about that team is how much diversity of background, people coming in with technical backgrounds, education backgrounds, user experience like all these different backgrounds been blending so well. And it's a great example of a team that's um, you know, really everyone understands everyone else's expertise, and there's always a dependence and collaboration going on. So it's
Right.
great. And of course, we love working with you and working with our other engineering friends. And one thing I love, yeah, kind of take it as our mission is not just to do our own work, but to foster collaboration and communication across the company. So that's paying dividends big time.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. All right. So moving on to other things apart from work that you do, you are also an author and you've written many books. I saw that you also wrote a book about economics of data. So tell us more about that book and yeah.
Yeah, well, we've got an upcoming book, my friend Stephen Fishman and I, called Unbundling the Enterprise. So
Mm,
part of it is, what we get into there. It's really a book about how the patterns of success for companies in the digital economy, and those could be we cover case studies like Amazon and Google and ones you'd expect,
mm,
but we also cover a number of other companies like Coca-Cola and Cox Automotive and Best Buy, like companies that were around before the web that have been very successful in the web age. And a lot of what we get in, or part of what we get into a lot of stuff. There's lots of stuff about APIs and value exchange mapping and so on. But we do touch on the economics of data because I think it's a big deal. I think it's a real hidden, I mean, maybe it's not hidden, but it's sort of a secret. There's a secret recipe to how to do it well. And if you think about the companies that have been the big names now in big tech, we call them big tech companies. Probably
mm.
they've made most of their money off data. Like I remember in 2008, 2009, when Facebook was just getting to about 1 billion users
Yeah.
globally. And people were saying, that what a fad. It's going to be gone because there's no business model. How do they make money?
Mm,
Well, I mean, it was classic just collecting data and then the monetization quickly followed.
mm,
Uh, but it's the same for Google. Like, how does Google monetize? They monetize their ad business, which is, revolutionized advertising through targeting and so on, which is all data based. Amazon, I remember an early Amazon story was about how when they were in the early days, when Amazon was just a book retailer, they had an editorial staff who would write book reviews,
mm.
for the purpose of going out and saying, "Oh, here's the reviews from the Amazon editorial staff, so you might want to buy this book that got a good rating."
Yeah.
But they basically it got just marginalized by the fact that they were collecting all the customer reviews, and people were looking at the numbers of customer reviews and saying, "Well, do I trust this one opinionated person or these 50,000 people who've submitted reviews?" So I think data is fundamental to like it is the currency of the digital economy. And I like to talk about we hear people saying data is the new oil, right? Trying to say it's a valuable thing. Well, yeah, data is valuable. But in the book, we talk about how it's actually the complete opposite of oil from an economic perspective.
Mm,
Oil um, is a fungible, rivalrous search good, meaning fungible. A barrel of oil is a barrel of oil. They're interchangeable.
yeah. Yeah.
The rivalrous meaning that you can't have the same oil in two places at once. Once you use it, it's gone.
Mm,
And then the search good means that you know the value of a barrel of oil because there's a market price for it. Whereas data is the complete opposite, right? It's non-rivalrous, meaning I can share data and it gets duplicated with no cost. I can it's a experience good, meaning you don't know its value until you use
mhm.
it, and it's non-fungible because the data about me as a person is different than the data about you as a person. So,
Yeah.
but because of those economic properties, it really is um, it is a currency that where you can have a lot of very imbalanced exchanges. So
Mm,
Facebook could just collect everybody's personal information for free. And we
yeah.
all, this is great. It's a
Yeah.
free site. I can go and talk to my friends and connect. We haven't talked in years. And then, oh yeah, I like this and I like that. And meanwhile, it's like, what am I giving away here? So
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. I love that. Like data is the currency of the digital. I'm gonna use that quote.
yeah,
Um,
it's very true.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, like, you're giving away so much data unknowingly. So that brings me to the next question, which is like the ethical concerns of AI, which has become a very recent study. Like we're building all these great AI technologies and using LLMs and whatnot, but how do we ensure that, we are building ethical AI systems and we are making sure of the bias and the responsibility and all of those aspects of AI? So while building for Boomi and integrating AI within Boomi, are there certain things that you are asking your team or trying to foster those practices within the company?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a collective effort. So I think going into this, we set first principles around AI, and responsible AI was right at the front of that. And even better than I do in terms of engineering our own AI capabilities in the platform, we had a bias from the outset to not share any data and then be very very specific about what data is even shareable at all. And then even when interacting with third-party models, how do you isolate them in a way that it's, you own the rights to the tenancy and so on. But there's so many ethical concerns, right? Like there's data privacy is one. I think there's, we think of AI as all technology, but in the whole supply chain of AI, like there's a lot of human involvement and there's a potential for exploitation, and that potential has been realized in some cases. There's all sorts of implications around ecological concern, like chewing up so much horsepower and like so there's just so many things to consider. I think the what I've found, I don't even know if I have a term for it yet. It's kind of like a variant of Machiavellian theory,
Mm-hmm.
right? Machiavelli was the end justifies the means. Um, I think I kind of take an approach of the end justifies the motives. So why do we get into these situations where we end up with all sorts of negative impacts?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because we live, I mean, we're in a business, we're in the world of business. People want to make profit, they want to grow, they want to do all that, right? So if you want people to do the right thing, you
Mm-hmm.
kind of have to make the right thing good for business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's some very strong arguments to say following the ethical path with AI
Mm.
is good for business. Because if you just try and make the altruistic argument that we should all do good for good's sake, you'll get all the people on board who are already on board, right? But
Yeah.
if you it's not even like people who are not necessarily on board with that are malicious. It's that they're not focused on doing good for good's sake. They're focused on the business side. Like I want to,
Yeah.
so I think the more we can make it understood that um, you know, being responsible with your energy consumption is good for business, that protecting your workers or creating environments where you're not exploiting people is good for business and eliminates risks to your business around legal challenges and so on. Same thing with data privacy. I
Right.
think we'll get a lot farther. And I think this is a failure that I've seen in the past where people just want people to do good for good's sake, which I do. Of course, I want people to do good for good's sake, but you need more than that if you're going to get everybody on board. And I think that's the way to do it.
Right. I agree. I agree. And then to add on to it, I think like a lot of companies talk about it. We have to make sure our AI is responsible and ethical, but it's still like a lot in theory and comes after building the AI. So I think it should be like at the initial stages when you're beginning to collect the data, because that's when, like you said, data is fundamental to building any AI system. And then at the beginning itself, if you make sure and make it a priority of making it ethical, making it responsible, you don't have to wait till the end of it. So
And I think this is where leadership, especially as you go up the chain, plays a big role, right? To say, we're not going to compromise on these things. Because if that's left unstated, then, people can make assumptions and sometimes they assume that, oh, we don't have the money to do it this way, whatever. So I think it's good to sometimes you just need those principles up front to just guide it. And I think I'm very glad that that has always been front and center for us.
yeah, I agree. Absolutely. All right. So, yeah, we've talked about a lot of things, and I want to ask you, as a takeaway for our audience and listeners and people who want to get into the AI space and are taking up AI seriously, with your experience of building AI and integrating AI for an enterprise as big as Boomi, are there any common pitfalls or advice you would you know be make us be aware of, like don't do this. These are do's and don'ts.
I think for companies out there who are, just trying to figure out like, what do we do? Where do we start with this stuff? I mean, I would say a few things. Number one, if you're on the path to digital transformation and you're, getting your data in order and automating things and like that's all what you need to do to be ready to take most advantage of AI. Like you don't want to just skip ahead a bunch of steps.
Right.
If you're a company that runs their whole business on Excel spreadsheets being emailed around and then all of a sudden you want to jump to Gen AI, like sort sort the foundational stuff out is still good. Number two, like keep think about the business problem first. Like I think someone was asking me the other day about, innovation and what makes an innovative technology. Well, it's just because you found a new way to solve a problem that couldn't be solved before. So look at those, or maybe more in a more efficient way. Like there's different levels of innovation, I guess, but there has to be a problem that you're solving with it. And
Yeah.
I often pick on blockchain as a technology because it feels like it was always it's always been a solution looking for problem.
Mhm.
Uh, and
True.
but it does, I mean, it's a solution to some problems. The problem is there are other solutions to those problems that are already around, right? Except maybe the cryptocurrency one, which is, you know, a whole other story. But
Yeah.
uh, so I think, you know, stay with the foundation, look for the business problems to solve. And again, don't be afraid. I think one of the big lessons of the book that we're putting out is just about how do you make your organization more comfortable with experimentation?
Mhm.
Because the companies that have been most successful in the digital space, digital technology actually affords us the ability to be more experimental, to
Mhm.
place cheaper bets, to say, rather than spending 9 months doing a study to determine what our next product should be, just try try a few ideas and see if they stick,
Mhm.
right? So I think it's the same with AI as well. Break the take your take smaller steps and then measure along the way, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I may not like every problem may not need AI or the latest technology to solve your problem.
Yeah. Well, and even like I can tell you, having worked with very advanced AI companies, and we experienced this ourselves, right? Is it's not like Gen AI models all of a sudden take over all the other models. Like
Right.
your own trained machine learning models are still, not only are they still very valuable, but even in these advanced AI companies, they're more prominent than the Gen AI models in terms of the actual product because you can be more proprietary and more specialized around your own models. And a lot of times, you know, Gen AI is great for generative use cases, for, you know, these sort of ambiguous reasoning use cases. But if you want reductive, predictive functionality, you're probably better off using good old-fashioned machine learning.
Yeah. 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 I saw like there are like, somebody was telling, there are these parameters you can control to make it less predictable and more predictable. I was
Yeah.
like, if I want it to be more predictable, then, I can have a custom
Yeah.
model. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some cases where just the way that because the massive data sets that have been used. Like you can get the Gen AI models to behave like a predictive machine learning model, but then going back to the efficiency question, like we're still at the stage with Gen AI where it's art of the possible. Everyone's coming up with ideas. Well, hey, you could make it do this. You could make it do that.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten the bill yet for what that's going to cost, right? There's going to be a lot of stuff where we'll say,
Yeah.
yeah, you could do it that way, but you know, you don't necessarily need a sledgehammer to crack a peanut shell, right? Like I think there's still other ways to solve the problem.
Yeah. Absolutely. Agreed. All right. So yeah, we're almost at the very end of our podcast with one special segment remaining, which is called the rapid fire. I'm going to ask you 10 questions and you have to answer without thinking too much.
Yeah, I haven't even stretched yet, so hopefully I don't pull a muscle here. Okay.
All right. First question. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I am a night owl by nature who has to force himself to be an early bird.
Yeah, I am the same. Um, Favorite software tool or programming language?
Software tool, I'll go off the script and say Cubase recording software. It's just because it's my favorite thing to do is record music, and that's what I use.
Okay. Cubase. Okay, we'll definitely check it out. One technology you can't work without.
Coffee machine.
Yeah, we have a lot in common. Um, a book or a podcast you recommend?
The Data Dojo podcast, of course.
Answer.
You know, book. Do I have it here? I see Innovator's Dilemma. Um, Here, this one. Thinking in Systems, Donella
Okay.
Meadows. It is about it's like an introduction to systems thinking, and it's been the most profoundly impactful book on my view of the world.
Wow. All right. Best advice you've ever received?
Oh boy. I remember my friend of the family when I was at an impressionable age saying, "You don't ask, you don't get."
Mm,
So there you go.
yeah.
It can be hard sometimes to, you know, you want to be polite and everything, but yeah, that phrase comes up in my head a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the best, but it's the most pithy and memorable.
Yeah. Nice one. Yeah, I will remember that one. Because you love APIs so much, your favorite API or like an API you admire for its design.
This is not a paid advertisement, but Stripe. I mean, I think I actually this is a lightning round, so I'm going a little bit longer on this. But one of the things we announced at Boomi World was our new partnership with Stripe, and it's very much around integrating the processes and so on. But it's like, oh, this is a company I've been talking about how great their developer experience is for so long, and they revolutionized. They kind of came up with the template for the 3-column API documentation, so on. So I'll go Stripe.
Right. Got it. Okay. One trend in tech, not necessarily AI, that excites you the most right now.
It's hard not to be talking about AI. No, I am quite excited about this whole a world of AI agents and what that means. And maybe it's because on one hand it's sort of the unknown, but on the other hand it's also I think it'll have a lot of parallels to the API world that I've come out of. So
Mm.
excited about agents.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Seems promising. Your favorite city for tech conferences?
Vancouver has to be. I'm a I'm a homebody.
Yeah, I can see that. Last question is, if you could automate one part of your job, what would that be?
Oh geez. Well, I would have said commute, but I work from home most of the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Travel and commuting for all my commuter friends out there. That would be the one. Although the state of self-driving cars and so on, I'm not sure we're there yet.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm in SF, so I see like a lot of self-driving cars all around, and yeah, looks good. All right. Yeah, thank you so much, Matt, for sharing all of your candid responses. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.